It's been a minute since I've made a video here, and I feel really bad because I promised you guys at the end of the last video I made, which was the tax deductions for wedding photographers video, circa spring 2021, that I would be coming out with a bunch of videos shortly thereafter, following up on that one, and I did not, and I apologize. I have gotten a bunch of DMs from you guys over the last year through Instagram and on YouTube, kind of asking follow-up questions, and I've been answering them kind of like on a one-by-one basis, and I think that that's awesome, but it doesn't benefit the community like I was kind of hoping all of this would. So I thought that it's like about time to put a little bit more effort into making this a helpful channel for you guys, and yeah, just kind of like a fun little side project for me to break up some of the routine of editing weddings and engagements and elopements all day, which I love, but yeah, it's just nice to have a different creative outlet sometimes. So let's go ahead and get into the questions. I'll post the question on the screen so you guys can kind of see it too. I'm going to read through them and then do my best to kind of answer them a little bit off the cuff. I haven't really taken a deep dive into them. I sort of saw them coming in a couple nights ago when I asked the question, like just on my phone through notifications and stuff, and kind of got a general gist, but nothing like, I didn't study them. So bear with me here. How to create and grow your Instagram community. I have no idea. I actually am probably not the best person to ask. I think my follower count has been pretty much stagnant for the last 3 or 4 years. I don't know why. I mean, what kind of combination of factors led to the growth that I had, or like what combination of factors led to sort of the pullback on growth? Could be a variety of things. I suspect part of it might just be Instagram's latest preference towards video and less photography, less still images. I kind of reached this point of transcendence or something a few years ago where I realized I just don't care anymore about pleasing the algorithm, whatever that even means. I just wanted to post stuff that made me happy. I think I've kind of maybe been penalized a little bit for that, but I just don't care. I mean, I am so much more satisfied with the type of stuff that I'm sharing with people on Instagram than I used to be. And I think if I'm going to participate in Instagram at all, I kind of want to do it under my own terms. And if that means fewer followers, that's totally fine. Actually, one of my favorite features that Instagram added was the ability to hide likes on photos, because now I'm free from even caring what kind of what number of likes that photos get that I post. I mean, it's just wonderful. I can post anything and the metrics don't matter, and it feels great. I just kind of gave up caring because I spent so much time, especially in 2016, 2017, maybe 2015 even, that early, pouring a lot of energy into growing Instagram and growing my follower count and trying to figure out what other people are doing that got them to this number, and what I can be doing, what hashtags I should be using, what type of content people want to see, and it's chasing a moving target for me, and it just became way more stressful than it was worth. Here my friend Benj, thank you Benj if you're watching this. You literally just posted something that encapsulates what I'm thinking so well. I'm actually just gonna pull it up real quick because I don't want to misconstrue what he said. Okay, here it is. Hustle culture stole so much joy from my life. In the Instagram context, that hustle culture totally destroyed my enthusiasm and joy that I got from using Instagram. It used to be such a cool app where it was just a fun way to feel creative and then also be inspired and get creative. And then yeah, the hustle, it took it away. It made it all about competition, which I mean it is. I know there's the community over competition sort of mantra going around. At the end of the day, these are businesses we are all running, and there is a degree of community, or a degree of competition, but also a degree of community. They coexist. And yeah, Instagram and the hustle thing created this imbalance that made it shift way towards competition and way less towards community. And what's that other quote? I think it's a C.S. Lewis quote, the comparison is the thief of joy. Nothing underpins my avoidance and anxiety that I get from Instagram more than comparison. which is why most of the accounts I follow are meme accounts now and less fellow photographers. Anyways, okay, enough rambling. Next question. Can you make a video on the Leica Q2? I definitely plan to do some gear reviews. They aren't like super high on the priority list, but I do realize that I have a lot of interesting gear that's very unique and that people want to hear from a wedding photographer's perspective how those bits of kit and the cameras and lenses and everything work for me. So I will be putting together some like gear reviews on the stuff that I use. But in the meantime, if you're looking for some really good Leica reviews, especially on the Q2, my friend, also the author of that quote that I just read out, Ben Heisch, has some great ones, and he even has one on the Q2 that I think you'll like. I'll link the video somewhere. Still getting used to that YouTube life. I'm not sure where in the screen to point, so I'll just put it down below. Why do you have the 90mm and 75mm? One of the lenses I have is a 90, one of them is a 75. The other two are 35 and then a 28. So no 50. I know that's like a shocker to a lot of photographers. I haven't had a 50mm lens in probably since 2016, however long that's been. It's kind of odd to some people who see that I have a 90 and 75 that I have both, because usually you're picking kind of one or the other. I have a 90mm lens because I needed the longest lens that Leica makes for my camera, and 90 was it. And I have a 75mm lens because the 90 is often too long for elopements, which I shoot about as frequently as I photograph big weddings. I use the 75, the 35, and the 28 for elopements, and the 90 really only comes out for like big weddings where I need to, if it's a big ceremony space and I need to get, you know, close to the couple, or if it's like a large cocktail hour space and I want to kind of post up in the corner or like somewhere inconspicuous and be able to like photograph people from farther away so I'm less noticed. So that's why I have the 90. It's the longest lens that Leica makes for my camera, and the 75 is primarily for elopements and engagement shoots and that kind of thing. Kind of fits in where I think a lot of other photographers use a 50. Want to join me and Roman in France in July? We'll be there for 25 days. Let's do a shoot. I would totally love to, and we can chat about that. I love France. Paris is one of my favorite cities on earth. I know it sounds super cliche because I'm sure it's like a lot of people's favorite city on earth, but I've traveled all over the world, and fewer cities are as beautiful and aesthetically pleasing to me more than Paris. How to do taxes quarterly, and should you? I'll tackle the last half of the question first, the should part. You should technically pay quarterly taxes. That's kind of the way the IRS expects it to be done. If you don't pay your taxes quarterly, income taxes, mind you, we're not talking about sales tax. Sales tax must be paid quarterly. If, by the way, you don't know what I'm talking about with sales tax, I plan on doing a dedicated video to just sales tax, but in the meantime, there's a sales tax blog post on my site that I'll link to down below. You should 100% check that out if you haven't yet. Sales tax is something that, as a wedding photographer, you do not want to get wrong. You want to make sure you're collecting it properly, paying the government on time, all of that stuff. You can get in a world of trouble if not done properly. So check that out. And then check out the video that I promise will come soon. So that leaves us with income tax. That's the part that we're talking about being paid in quarterly. The government expects you to pay all of your tax in as close as possible throughout the year, not just at tax time at the end of the year. They want it paid throughout the year. Think of the government like a business. Think of it like your own business. You don't want to get paid for all of the weddings that you photographed at the end of the year. You want to get paid evenly. Like an evenly distributed cash flow is going to be better for the health of your business than a big chunk, a big lump sum at the end of the year. So you can pay your bills, right? That's kind of the same thing in the government. They want their income tax paid all throughout the year, not just at tax time. Tax time is what a lot of people think is when you pay all of your taxes in, but that's really just the time of year where you kind of reconcile all that you've paid in and all that you might owe, or all that you've paid in and maybe overpaid and therefore get a refund. So it's just kind of like the time where you reconcile everything. So yes, you should pay quarterly income taxes, a really easy way to kind of ballpark it. These are just estimated payments, by the way. So estimated, you kind of guess and you make your best guess. So the way to kind of calculate how much your quarterly estimated payment should be is to take the amount you paid in taxes last year, divide it into 4 chunks, and then pay those 4 chunks at the end of each quarter, whenever the quarterly taxes are due. For states, it's a little bit different, but for federal, it's April 15th, July 15th, October 15th, and January 15th. So let's say in 2022, you had a tax bill of $10,000. If you pay $2,500 4 times throughout 2023, then for your 2023 tax return, you should be good to go. I do it a little bit differently. I don't pay quarterly, and yes, there are penalties and there is interest accrued for not making your quarterly payments on time. I kind of pay estimated payments in like seasonal chunks. So like maybe I'll put in a big $10,000 chunk in August or September when it's like peak wedding season. That's what I do. And yeah, I do pay a little bit of interest and penalties for not making the March and June quarterly payments, but it's a couple $100, and to me, it's worth it to free up the opportunity to use that cash for other things, like purchasing a rental property or investing in the stock market, or any number of like other opportunities that might yield more returns than the little bit of interest and penalties I might have to pay. Some people get refunds on their taxes. I seem to always pay. How do I get a refund? Cool. Okay. So that's a great question. Kind of piggybacks on what we were talking about estimated tax payments, paying as close as you can throughout the year what you paid last year. So let's say at the end of the year you owe $10,000 taxes, like the example before, and let's say you paid $5,000 a quarter in. So you paid $20,000 in, you overshot how much you owed by $10,000, and you get a refund. That's awesome, right? Kind of not. It's great because you don't have to pay anything and refunds feel good, but you also gave the government an interest-free loan for the entire year, and that sucks. So there are basically 2 viewpoints in the scholarly tax world about this. One is, great, make a refund for yourself, overpay throughout the year. And the other one is, don't give a dime more than you need to and undershoot and owe at the end of the year if you can. These are the reasons why. So for the people who are in favor of generating a refund for yourself, a lot of it kind of comes down to, it's a really great way for people who aren't maybe super good at saving to have kind of a baked-in savings account for themselves. On the other hand, you're giving the government an interest-free loan, like I mentioned. It's better to take that $10,000 overpayment and instead invest it in something that actually yields a return throughout the year. I kind of find myself on that side of things, if I'm being honest. I would much rather significantly underpay throughout the year and pay taxes at tax time, like actually owe something at tax time, than give the government a bunch of money that I can't use for something else. Free cash flow, like I mentioned in the question before, is a really, really critical thing for self-employed people. Yeah, so you don't want to pay nothing in throughout the year, but you don't want to overpay way more than you need to. Can I invest more into my SEPIRA than I need to offset taxable income? I know who's writing this, and I think that they have an S-corporation. And if that is the case, your SEPIRA contributions in case of a S-corporation are limited to 25% of your wages that you pay yourself. So if you make $60,000, if you pay yourself $60,000 as salary from your own S-corporation, then you're limited to making $15,000 in SEPIRA contributions. So I think that might answer, I don't know if that answers your question or not, or if you're asking if you can put like enough in your SEPIRA to create a loss for yourself. Definitely feel free to message me to clarify if you want later, but overall hope that answer helps some people. Tips for finding an accountant who specializes in small business or self-run business. I need anyone. I usually refer people to either a local firm here if I know that they're kind of in the area that I live in, or if they're from some other part of the country. I kind of give just the same blanket advice, which is, and I guess it even applies to people who live here too. Traditionally, you would find a CPA or an accountant who lives like in the same town as you do, because you had a lot of papers you needed to drop off. You needed to do a lot of things that facilitated the exchange of like paper goods, prior tax returns, checks, receipts, that kind of stuff, the proverbial shoebox. But in the last like 10 or so years, I think the landscape of the way accounting firms and their clients interact with each other has changed a ton. Accountants have gotten so much better at adopting technology and using it appropriately that it kind of removes the limitation of needing to find somebody in your locality anymore. I think that you can reach out now anywhere in the country and find the best accounting firm, and there will be a way to facilitate that relationship digitally. So this person wants to know everything you need to do after starting an SCorp, like minutes, etc. It tends to be more common to convert into an LLC and then elect to be taxed as an S corporation than to just open an S corporation. So I'm going to kind of come at it from that angle. I think this person is talking about is, do you need to take meeting minutes? Because that's kind of a thing that's in a bunch of different articles about S corporations. No, you don't need to take meeting minutes. Especially if it's just you, you're a taxable entity, not a legal entity. I think the overall gist, though, is that you do need to have much tighter bookkeeping, much tighter record keeping throughout the year than maybe you might have when you're a C corp or a Schedule C, like a sole proprietor. Basically, when you make that step into S Corp life, you do need to make everything a little bit more official. I feel like I've been rambling a ton. I'm currently at 55 minutes of rough footage that will be trimmed down, obviously, to whatever you're watching right now. If one of your questions wasn't answered, just shoot me a DM, tell me it wasn't, and I would love to like unpack it and talk to you more about it. If one of your questions was included in the video and you want a little bit more clarification, similarly, just reach out and let me know, and I would love to talk to you about that too. Okay, hope that was all helpful. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.